Well, howdy ho there. I hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful time. I did a couple of things here in Scholar of the First Sin that are pretty cool and good, and then I kept myself on fire, and then I didn't like being on fire. What I personally found in revisiting Scholar of the First Sin and revisiting Dark Souls 2 in particular is that there are some areas I really like in Dark Souls 2. I think that it's pretty cool. I do think that Dark Souls 2 feels kind of more high fantasy than a lot of the other games do. Yeah, I mean, because you get stuff like this where I feel like I'm in Mario Planet world, where it's just like lava everywhere and chains, and honestly, it looks kind of silly. But yeah, I greatly enjoy a lot of this game, but this part I'm not really particularly big on. And well, part of it was simply that I was having a hard time. I don't know if it's particularly because I was a caster, and I found that a lot of things were just not really getting the stun on them that I wanted them to, and stuff like that. There's also weird invaders like this where it's like, why are you wearing that? Then again, to be fair, the invaders aren't necessarily from the same place that you're actually like dealing with them in. I mean, I personally, if you look at me, I'm wearing like a weird priesty robe type deal, a priestess type robe. That doesn't necessarily mean that you would find more priestesses type stuff in the area. But yeah, this is probably one of the few areas that I'm like not super big on and didn't really enjoy as much when I went through it. Although that's not to say that it's bad. I think that overall this area is fine. I think that I'm just not a super big. Well, one of the things is that like I find that the design in this area feels very weird to me. Like, why are these dudes turtles? Why are these other dudes? And we'll see them here in a second. Like, why are these other dudes like basically have like plate armor that you would have like on a kind of a more like a medieval knight, but instead of having like a short sword or a long sword or something like that, they have a katana. That's not necessarily to say that, like a katana couldn't possibly work, but I don't know, it just seems kind of weird to me. And I think that samurais in particular look really good when they're just samurais and you don't add too much extra stuff to them. I think adding too much to them, they start to like kind of lose their aesthetic appeal. But overall, I would say that this place is probably interesting, and it's probably one of the good examples because, a lot of people talk about this game and they talk about how it doesn't feel like a Souls game. This is probably, when people say that, this is the area I think of the most in regards to that. I think of this area in particular partially just because it really does, to me personally, feel like it doesn't belong as much in like the kind of the world of Dark Souls. Like something about it just like, especially like the lava stuff starts to make it feel a little too cartoony, especially in comparison to like the earlier area was literally just like a weird poison pit fart gas zone. It was the fart gas zone, and I don't know, but this area is there's the guy. Didn't really get a great look at him, but you can see that he's got like a katana there, but he's also got like on armor that looks kind of more like just like regular medieval plate. But yeah, this is probably this is one of the areas where I would say I was having a genuine bit of difficulty going through. Most of the places are pretty easy and you can kind of run. These guys were chasing me all over the place, and because there's like a kind of a limit to where I can actually run in this upcoming area until I flip that lever down there, which you can't see because of my big cat head, my big beautiful cat head, meow meow meow. But there was kind of like a lot going on. I also think that the smelter demon design, which I think I cut that out. Yeah, I did cut that out. It doesn't really look the greatest, but that's okay. We'll definitely see Smelter Demon when we go to the DLC. But basically, he just looks like a big anus with horns, and it's just an odd thing. But yeah, but even then, I was listening to Angriest Pat and Wooly talk a little bit about. They ended up talking just a little bit about this, where they're mostly talking about Elden Ring. But but they were talking about, our Pat in particular said that, you know, this is like one of his biggest disappointments, and it's still like was like game of the year. It's still like a lot of fun, because I think that even though I'm not a big fan of this area, I still think overall it's not like a badly designed area. It's not like it's like the worst ever or anything like that. It's just not really something that like appeals to me all that much. And I think that's one of the things that kind of actually makes it a bit more interesting, because in a way then you can kind of stop and look at this place as its own sort of separate thing, and you can see, you know, like what exactly makes this place feel different. Like, and I do think a big part of it is that it feels a little bit too much like, almost like a, you know, in like some of the older like Zelda games and stuff like that, you'd get like elemental temples. I think it's Ocarina of Time there, like the water temple and the fire temple and stuff like. I haven't played a ton of the Zelda games, but like those, I vividly remember that. It kind of feels a little bit more like that, and it's also, you know, like kind of high fantasy in a variety of ways. Like, just, it's just a big realm where there's magic and lava and you know, dragons and blah blah blah. Here there's not as much of the dragons, but like, especially when we get further into the game, there are parts that we can talk about with like Dragon Airy, where it really does start to feel kind of like and then here I got killed, stabbed, killed, stab, kill. uh and I found that just trying to run through wasn't necessarily the great, because dealing with each individual guy, I realized I would be running out of spells pretty quick, and then I died. And it's kind of funny, just like just kind of a compilation of all the times I died. I try to jump and I didn't. I don't jump in time, so I just fall into the lava. Oh man, that's great. Oh, I clap for me. You can see how many times I was having a rough time with that. But then I eventually got through it, and it took it didn't take a ton of time per se. It was mostly just like at a certain point I was getting kind of irritated with it, so I ended up kind of taking a break, you know, doing some mantra japa, you know, chanting, you know, om, all that good stuff. Coming back and then, you know, just going through things. And you can also see here I decided to change my outfit a little bit. And yeah, once you actually got past a lot of this stuff, to me was also like I just did not feel like killing it. And I tend to find that if I get to a point in a Dark Souls game where I just really don't feel like, oh, by the way, if I didn't turn these off, these would be spewing fire right now. It would be a lot harder to go through. And I kind of switched around my spell equipment and stuff like that. And what I didn't realize when I first did this, I think, yeah. So I was trying to get an item on a particular area, or not really a particular item. I just wanted to explore because I couldn't remember what was in there. And I gave myself extra spells, so I didn't have to constantly use my amber just to go around. And it kind of, I think it lasts into the boss fight. And this actually comes up later in the video when I do the other boss fight. It ends up completely not mattering because it only does it for like one spell, and then it really wasn't that big a deal. And I think the only reason it stayed at all is because what it does is it basically it just makes it so whatever spell value you have just stays permanent. But what it did for one spell, because I had two of them, is that it gave me a bunch of extra. No, actually, no, I think I do have a great, yeah. But either way, I ended up fixing that, but then I ended up doing this anyway. So, you know, watch your step, kids. In areas where there's lava, you should probably make sure you at least occasionally look down and make sure that you're not just, you know, doing that. So be careful there. But no, it's also not a particularly difficult fight, so I wasn't really too worried about it. It mostly just boils down to running around the corner and I'm sure you'll see that here in we'll see that in just a second here. Together, hugs for all, fun for all. Happy. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and see a little bit more of that here in a moment. Um, I also just wanted to try a different outfit just because I like the priestess kind of look, but I thought that this would maybe be okay. So no, I guess it didn't affect the Great Soul Arrow. I think I was actually fine. Oh no, yeah, I did. That was actually just an issue later. Never mind. I'm crazy, but yeah, I, you know, it's not even that I like hate the designs in this area. It's just like I don't know. For some reason, when I think of Dark Souls, this place never comes up, and honestly, neither really does the DLC for this particular area because after each of well, okay, so after two of the bosses, there's a DLC that you can go to that's kind of almost themed like those bosses. Like there's the boss we saw, or there's DLC areas we saw after we killed the great big rotten thingy. Behind it, there was the area that I showed that was like takes you to the DLC area. That one's like poison themed, and you know that whole area was like poisony. But yeah, basically on this boss fight, especially if you're like a caster, this is like one of your best friends. Now, of course, you need somebody like a meat shield, if you will, who will sit there and take all the damage for you and distract it, because otherwise it'll just move over here after a minute and just come and hit you. Um, and he does a lot of attacks where basically he just like sprays fire or tries to whack you. O'Hara, however did you want to say that, has basically a lot of health, and she mostly exists in this fight for me to just kind of sit there and like do this instead of actually going through and like trying to dodge and things like that, because this is a lot easier and it kind of helps out a decent bit to do that. Uh, what I and I think like this boss design too. I don't know, like he just kind of reminds me of like a generic demon sort of deal. I'm not 100% sure. I was thinking about like what I would change. Oh. The lava's kind of almost more deadly than he is, which is kind of funny. It's a really weird kind of it's very bubbly lava texture. But yeah, so this did take a few attempts. Nothing too crazy, thankfully. But I'm thinking about what I would change about his design in particular and how I would make it maybe more interesting. I almost feel like if you kind of borrowed from the design of the giants in this game with like the weird like just really tall lanky thing going on, they have like the hole in their head. Or I was thinking about I think it's in Neo the oh yeah, it is in Neo the Omibusu. I don't know how to say it. Basically the gigantic water spirit. I thought that would be kind of an interesting thing. Like you just have this like giant like lava spirit coming out that just looks like a almost like a bloated bubble of lava or something like that. I think that would be kind of neat. Um, but at the same time, I also kind of like that there's all these like bowl images and stuff or like that around here. It kind of gives me almost like a sort of like Persian, like Near Eastern vibe, which I personally find kind of cool. Um, and I do think it's actually pretty neat to incorporate that element. I wish it was incorporated in an area that I thought was just kind of better uh, looking and just kind of more interesting, because I think there's a variety of things we could have done. I This guy does come up in the DLC, but Sir Alane, however you say it's Alonne. Oh, this is Strayed, who gives cool spells, so I decided to go back and get some spells from this guy. He's also kind of a butt munch, which is kind of, I personally think, kind of funny. He gave me heavy homing soul arrow, which I don't really think is a good spell. I'm kind of only halfway looking at like guides and things to make it so that this is better, because I never play what you call it. Oh, sorcerers. I almost never play sorcerers in these games, but I thought it would be interesting. So here we are back with the last attempt, and we're doing basically what I found was I didn't actually have to keep taking cover from this guy, and I could just do this to just keep casting a soul spear. Now, did I need to do that? Probably not. I mean, honestly, I'm doing okay damage with a lot of my other spells, and just having this stuff just like continue to like put on more soul spears and stuff like that. If I had more soul spears, which I think there are ways for you to get more soul spear or similar spells and stuff like that. But yeah, it does a decent bit of damage, you can see there. And I rather thought it was working pretty well for me. It's also funny that I went to go get that spell from Strayed, because I don't even use it in this fight. I don't think I've used it at all, actually. It just doesn't really seem like something I need to use, or something that's like particularly useful for me. But I will say that I'm really enjoying doing a spell like a sorcerer's build, because it does feel very it feels very different to like the way I would normally play Dark Souls, because normally what I do in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 is basically I get a big sword, I upgrade that big sword, then I melee the living crap out of everything, and I just keep whacking until there is nothing left. And because it stuns things so well, it makes it pretty easy to deal with. Now here's the next area that we're going to, because, you know, going back there is not really a whole heck of a lot, but we do get to do this, which is fun. We get to relieve somebody with a fragrant branch of yore, and this is actually good level design, because, okay, so we know that this lady's petrified. What that tells us is that there's something around here that can petrify. And then this lady is nice. I like her. She's fun to talk to. And she teaches you pyromancy stuff. You can buy some fire seeds from her, which is good for upgrading your pyromancy and stuff like that. She's also pretty, generally speaking, just like one of the nicer people that you encounter. Then, as far as I remember, doesn't actually become like butt munch at any point. A lot of these people, for some reason, you help them, and then like the next thing you know, a little bit down the line, they're like, I am now a hollow and will attack you, or I am now a butt munch because I can be. Yeah, of course you haven't thanked me, because you haven't had a chance, because you've been coughing up stone. Yes, you do owe me your life. That's kind of interesting how you think about that. You could teach me pyromancy for your life. But yeah, this is also one of the few unique NPC interactions in the terms of like, it's something other than just like talking to her. I gave her some clothes, and when we go back to not Firelink, but Majula at some point, we can see her. This is also an area that's not really great to be in if you're a spellcaster, because I normally have to lock onto people. Because I can't lock onto people in this area because everybody's all shaded up and spooky and sneaky. But just in this area with the shaded woods itself, it can make it harder to deal with anybody that I come across. But honestly, it wasn't really that big of a deal. And I kind of just, you know, like I said, like you could barely see that guy there who rolled in front of me, who's going to stab me, but then I just walked past him. And that's probably one of the easiest ways to deal with pretty much everybody in this, is if you just, I mean, it was kind of difficult in the first part of the Iron Keep area, because what that guy will do is that he'll keep stopping. There's just so many, and you can't deal with them all, so you can't just roll through them all, and there's a lot of tight areas, so it makes it a lot harder. Also, there's one of the spooky things, you can see faces in the trees, and if you stay there long enough, you can actually hear them making noise. It's kind of fun. But it's generally speaking, I think, better to go through and I completely lost my train of thought, because I saw green. I was like, oh, pretty. Oh, wait, that's right. In a lot of cases, I personally find that it's a lot easier to just sort of like roll around, ignore the main enemies, and then come back and deal with them, in a little bit. And then once you come back and deal with them, you can kind of go, or you don't even have to really deal with them, like a stab and then teleport. But you don't really have to deal with them as much. And there's a lot of areas where it's like there's just a decent number of foes that you can just kind of get past. This is also one of the cool interactions in this game. You can kind of see in there that the guy's head is still inside of the helmet. He has a fun helmet. It looks like I think it's like a lion or like a barking dog almost. It's kind of weird because like, those things that are like in front of like certain temples and stuff, like the guardian lions, like they almost don't really look that much like lions to me. But it sort of reminds me of that aesthetic. Yeah, and this guy is kind of neat. They moved him so in the older version in Dark Souls 2, this guy's body is actually after you fight the Giganto Spider, which I'm sure that thrills all of you to know that we're going to fight a gigantic spider that goes in lasers and things like that. But usually that's where his body is. In this one, they changed his location, and we'll actually see it ahead of time, which is kind of funny. True. He say the true, as they said in that one horrible, 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 horrible movie, Cloud Atlas. I don't like that movie very much. I don't know if you could tell. Is that one related to Ayn Rand? I want to say it is, but I could be completely wrong. I, no, I think it is. Yeah, because I think Cloud Atlas is one of the ones that Ayn Rand wrote, and she's just not big into that lady. Not big into that lady. But yeah, I tend to. Yeah, I also like that you learned the decapitation gesture from him. Do you want me to tell you what happened to the kingdom? Because it's not the greatest, really. I mean, I returned to my silence. Bye bye. But yeah, this area is kind of interesting because if you just ran straight to the boss, which you can do actually pretty easily in this area, you kind of miss a lot of little things, which I think are pretty cool. There's also this stuff, which is kind of cool. There's these pots that have like evil faces on them. We'll see them here in a second. Yeah, there's one. There's these pots that have evil faces on them, and they actually curse you if you stay next to them for too long. And they can do it through walls and stuff. It's just like an area of an effect. It's just like an area of effect thing. It's also kind of interesting because if you just listen, you can hear like laughing. And like, yeah, see like the laughing, and there's just like weird noises that like take place in this area. But by rolling, I've defeated my ancient enemy, the Pot of Curse. What is that one card? Pot of Greed. I defeat the Pot of Greed by rolling. Oh man, look how close that was. And then there's this giant thing down there, and you're like, oh my god, is this thing going to attack me? But it doesn't attack you. And it's actually kind of interesting, because this guy is going to reveal one of the first times we're going to talk about the Ring of Whispers. The Ring of Whispers basically lets you hear what enemies are saying. It lets you hear them like they're on the map. They make noises and stuff. It's kind of fun, or at least I think it's pretty cool. Then we have these guys, which if I had to deal with every single one of these guys in this area, it would not be great. Although I do think that his dreads are pretty cool. I actually really like this Lion Man design that they came up with. I think it's pretty cool. But as you can see, they're magic resistant, so they're kind of a pain in the butt. I ran around with that guy for way longer than I want to admit. But I did, and I killed him. Then we pop this. And yeah, so... And then I'm sitting here going, ah, yes, I wish to talk to this guy. And then I realized that I didn't actually have the Ring of Whispers. But you can see me going through all the rings going, wait a minute, wait a minute, don't I have this ring? And then I did not have that ring. Because I'm a silly Billy sometimes, I tell you what. I tell you what, I'm a silly Billy. But yeah, it's still pretty cool, I think, that you can do that. I also almost forgot to put on the better recording ring. But yeah, he looks neat and he has hairy claws. But he goes, huh? Uh-huh. But because I don't have the ring. And then we come around the corner and look at that! It's our friend, Headless Verngall. Verngall? Vrengall? Vringolly. Like Ferngully, but you know, he's headless and he wants to chop. But there's some nice choppers on him too. I do kind of sometimes wish that the NPCs would actually like, if they did like an attack that would hit the wall, would do like when I like use a sword and hit the wall and would like, you know, freeze me for a second. That'd be kind of cool. But I don't know. Maybe I'm asking for a little too much there. I very well may be. But I came over here to, you know, try to kill that guy and talk to this guy. So now I have to go back and heal myself up so that I can kill this guy. Look at him. Look at him running towards me, kind of. The pathfinding in this game actually isn't that bad for most of the NPCs. I think most of them do pretty okay. Some of them aren't that great, but hey, I killed your body. He had a bear on him too, which is kind of a neat thing. Although that looks like a very big bear because he's so big. I kind of want to know why that guy is so big. Anyway, then I came back here with the Ring of Whispers so I could talk to this dude. No, you're a scorpion. Scorpions are cool. Yeah, humans can be butt munches sometimes, my guy. I'm not like other girls. I'm not like other cats. I'm actually very different and cool. I love being a cool cat. Meow. But yeah, this is also like one of the few guys that actually goes through and just tells you like a part of the story for the area. Dark Souls has that whole reputation for not really wanting to do that. As Pika Magic conjures up we strange creatures. So like he got crazy and he's like, to be honest with you, this doesn't even seem like that crazy of a design. It's just a dude. It's just a man centaur scorpion. Centaur scorpion. Scorpion centaur. Not really that crazy if I'm being perfectly honest. We're actually going to answer that question possibly next time. I want you to kill my betrothed. I mean, you're a scorpion. Are you actually betrothed, or is it just like a lady who like wants you to mate with her so that you can have horrible scorpion babies? Okay, dokie. Basically, I now have a scorpion friend to help me with my horrible, horrible boss killing. Tark is an interesting name. So it kind of seems like everybody here, if they hang out long enough, gets affected by the magic brain go by, the magic memory go by. So we're going to use the Fang key, and then we're going to go in here, and we're going to talk to this person. It's a crow person. Isn't that neat? Oh, actually, no, she's a raven. She's a raven because ravens are associated with Velka. She has these big taloned hands and all these other things. But I did think it was kind of funny because they also gave her a butt. And there's been so many people who are like, I want to fuck that bird. It's like, she just got a butt, man. Lots of things got butts. You ain't gotta go ham on all of them. Oh, also, if you step in this yellow goo, it'll degrade your equipment real fast. So I would not recommend it. But yeah, so you go down there to get them. There's basically a big hole Nothing too crazy. I'm gonna summon this guy, and I think, is this where I find, did I notice the issue? Because basically what I ended up doing is I got the stuff I needed to do, and then I just cleared out the whole area a couple of times. And also I felt like doing a pump up to this NPC because they're cool. And I also went and I spent some souls, and there's some other stuff you can find if you just like explore around there, but like I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. You can see here I got the 30 of the gray heavy soul arrow, and you're like, well, wait a minute, how did you do that? Well, that's like with it. See, the thing is broken because what it does is puts everything at 30, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, because when I just turned on like basically infinite spells while I was trying to run around, just clear and kill everything. But then I cast once, and it's like, okay, it's fine. It gave me basically one extra cast. Not that crazy, and as long as you turn it off, it should be fine. But just keep that in mind if you ever feel like messing around with any of the stuff like that. Ow! Don't do that to me. That's rude. Oh, missed. And yeah, so this is that guy's wife. It's kind of weird to me because I kind of wonder, why did he make the wife so much larger? It just seems like a strange thing to do. But see, I've never actually been in this fight as a mage, and the thing that's kind of funny is because you have these NPCs, you can kind of just sit back and do this. And for the most part, she's not actually like really a threat. She's mostly fine, and there's nothing really too crazy about her. I mean, her design is a little bit weird, but it's not really that bad. And you can kind of see here that Bradley of the old guard isn't even really taking that much damage. I mean, basically what it turns to is that you just gotta like stand on these little solid pieces, because otherwise she can come up underneath you and explode. But if you stand on these little solid pieces like the rocks there, she can't actually do that. Like you saw, she came up. And she's actually not really that difficult of a fight if you don't go in alone. If you go in alone, it's a little bit harder, because she can kind of tunnel vision you, but you just like watching, you can see that a lot of her attacks are actually not really that crazy, and B, a lot of them are actually pretty easy to dodge. And there you go, dead. Scorpion Lady dead. Tark saved. No longer has to fight with Scorpion Lady. He has escaped that fate for the time being until new Scorpion Lady comes, and she's like, "Hey, you like my tails?" He's like, "No, I don't like the tail." And then he cries. You know, what if you came up and like the first thing you heard out of Tark was just crying, just weeping. He's just a big weeper. This is Doors of Pharos, which is right before we're going to end this here. We're just going to run through real quick. I do think these guys are kind of interesting. I don't know if we actually get that great of a view of them, really. Oh, no, yeah, we are. I remember. But I do like this area. I like this, like, kind of like the ancient, like, abandoned looking places. It does make it feel more like Dark Souls. And I thought maybe Dark Souls just has a little bit of like a liminal spaces thing going on. But these guys I think are kind of interesting because he has tracking axes, which is kind of fun. But these guys kind of remind me of like the design of Chaos Dwarves. Like specifically Chaos Dwarf Warriors. And I just always thought that was kind of neat. And this thing just decides that it would rather jump off a cliff than let me have those supplies. Those delicious Titanite thingies. These guys aren't that crazy. Although I think their hammer is kind of cool than that. It's just an anvil. So yeah, basically, there's a lot more you can do in that area. You can go and open a lot of Pharaoh's doors. I wasn't going to do that right then. I was like, okay, I want to get to the end of this area so that I can, you know, finish for now and all that stuff. And yeah, so here we are in Tesseldora Cove. Or Cove Tesseldora. Brightstone Cove, blah, 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 whatever. We're in a place. It's fine, we blow it up magic anyway. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference, we're just gonna blow it all up anyway. But anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and thanks. I'd like to see you next time. Remember, like, subscribe, and bye. I love you. Bye. God loves you. Bye.